Ready? Can you hear me now? Testing? I'm on 2. Ah, there we go. All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for making it out. We're so happy to have you here to review the new Ave Bikeway Purple Line Connection concepts. We want to hear from you and your community. This is the stage to get all your comments out and let them be heard. But I'm not the one presenting. I am Casey Ann Webley. I'm the transit planner for the city. And we're going to have Anjali from RKNK do the presentation. We have some other representatives from RKNK and from the city, and we'll be answering questions and interfacing as needs to be. But over to you, Anjali.
Great, thank you. Good evening and welcome. As Casey said, my name is Anjali Tapia, and I'm part of the consultant team supporting the design efforts here, and I'm joined by Rob Gillespie and Tristan Jackson, who are also available to answer questions throughout the evening. So tonight we're going to talk through some of our initial concepts for the project study area, and then we'll highlight a few key areas where we have some design alternatives where we're actually seeking your feedback, and then we'll walk through how you can provide your feedback, how we want to hear from you, both here today in person or online after the fact when you go home and have some time to think about what you've heard. So this study is actually part of a grant that the city received from the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments and their Transportation and Land Use Connections program, where the city wanted to study bikeway connectivity between the Takoma Langley Crossroads Transit Center and the future Purple Line station and the planned New Avenue Bikeway along New Hampshire Avenue. Now that New Avenue Bikeway project is a multi-phase, multi-year bicycle facility that is meant to connect the DC line with the Takoma Langley Transit Center. It's been divided up into sections, and we're working on this purple section up here, which is kind of the final segment. Section B here is expected to complete 100% design later this spring, and Section A is expected to complete 100% design by the end of the year. So we're here to provide this connection to, I guess, pick up the bikeway and provide this connection to the final link. One reason why we're looking at coming off of New Hampshire Avenue is just because of that New Hampshire Avenue University Boulevard intersection and trying to provide bicyclists and pedestrians with an alternative route to access the transit center and future Purple Line station. Looking at what is our study area. So we start at the intersection of Ann Street and University Boulevard, and travel. This is where we would connect along the sidewalk and future crossings to the Purple Line station, which will be center running in this location, and then the transit center on the opposite side. So starting from this Ann Street and University Boulevard intersection, coming down through the neighborhoods and connecting to the New Hampshire Avenue corridor with by way of Holton Lane. We have some major design considerations to factor in on this project, one of which is just traffic calming and traffic diversion. We've heard anecdotally from the community that there's high vehicle volumes, high vehicle speeds, and just kind of unsafe driver behavior as people cut through the neighborhood. And that's only been exacerbated by the Purple Line construction. So that's definitely something that we're considering as we look at design alternatives. And I should have mentioned back up here in our part of this project is looking at this Ann Street and University Boulevard intersection. There is consideration for closing access to Ann Street from University Boulevard, which is basically what is happening currently when the Crossroads Farmers Market is in operation once a week for 7 months out of the year. So looking at making that condition more permanent with the opportunity to have more public space amenity and even some programmable space. So that's, up for consideration in this project. Other design considerations are the farmers market and how it operates. It seems to be a well-loved community amenity and frequently visited. And so when it's in operation, as I mentioned, that Ann Street University Boulevard access is closed. And north of Hammond Avenue, Ann Street is closed to vehicles. And there are farmers market vendors in the street on both sides, as well as on both sides of the sidewalk on the east side of the street, which is what you're looking at here in the photo. And so it seems like the width of the grass on either side of the sidewalk is the perfect width to accommodate a farmers market vendor. So we're definitely keeping that under consideration for our design alternatives, and we don't want to disrupt that operation of the farmers market. As we look at existing conditions in the project study area, pedestrian level of comfort and bicycle level of traffic stress are two metrics that we use in the industry to evaluate the quality of the pedestrian facility or bicycle facility. So first, looking at pedestrian level of comfort, this metric is mostly based on the physical characteristics of the roadway, like the posted vehicle speed, the number of travel lanes, whether or not there's a landscape buffer for the sidewalk, any kind of separation between vehicles and pedestrians. And ideally, we want to have a somewhat comfortable or very comfortable environment, which in this case would be a green or a blue street. So as you can see, what sticks out is Hammond Avenue in red, where there are currently no sidewalks. Outside of that, the study area is a pretty comfortable environment for pedestrians. Looking at bicycle level of traffic stress, which also is primarily based on the physical characteristics of the roadway, we want a low or very low level of traffic stress for bicyclists. And even though there aren't any existing designated bicycle facilities in the project study area, based on the physical characteristics, it's a pretty low stress environment, making it ideal to offer an alternative to that University Boulevard, New Hampshire Avenue intersection. So from there, I'd like to walk through our design and the concepts that we're considering for the study area. I'll start up here at Ann Street. As I mentioned, we're looking at a couple of alternatives for this intersection and this kind of half block area, which I'll get into later in the presentation. But ultimately, looking at the conditions of Ann Street and the needs of the farmers market, we're proposing to add shared lane markings in the roadway, which would alert people to bicyclists sharing the travel lane. And this allows us to maintain the on-street parking in this area and kind of suit the needs of the farmers market as well. We are looking at the opportunity to widen the sidewalk to even an 8-foot or 10-foot sidewalk or shared use path south of Hammond Avenue. Not really, I guess, north of Hammond. As I mentioned, it seems to suit the farmers market operations to have the grass on either side of the sidewalk. So that's the reasoning for kind of cutting it off at that location. So as I mentioned, none of the design alternatives that we're considering impact the operations of the farmers market. We expect it to continue at its current frequency and pace. If anything, we're trying to support it as best we can with improved pedestrian and bicyclist facilities. As we continue down from Ann Street, we'll connect to Kennewick Avenue, and there's a proposed new high visibility crosswalk here to connect to the existing sidewalk on Kennewick Avenue. So Kennewick is has this existing sidewalk on the I'll call it the south side of the street, with some landscape buffer providing separation as well as on-street parking. So pretty comfortable for pedestrians in its current state. It also already has some existing traffic calming, and so here we're again proposing the shared lane markings in the road to alert drivers to bicyclists sharing the travel lane. And we're showing those shared lane markings continuing all the way through to Kirkland Avenue, where we have an existing Capital Bike Share station that we want to make sure that we users can connect to along the alignment here. Getting to Hammond Avenue, in this section, it's a one-way northbound street, and it's pretty wide. And in this area, it has on-street parking on both sides of the street, and we've heard kind of anecdotally that drivers can often come and turn right here, kind of traveling the wrong way down the street, just not really realizing that it's one way. Even though there is signage, but it can be it's not visibly noticeable that it's a one-way street in this area. So we're proposing some pavement marking improvements, maybe even some flex posts to kind of tighten up the intersection, help to make it a little bit more visible that it's a one-way street, and that you shouldn't enter here. And then along Hammond Avenue, we're proposing this two-way separated bicycle facility on the east side of the street. And in addition to a 5-foot sidewalk in the existing right-of-way. This would maintain the current curb alignment and would remove parking on this side of the street, where in this area there's no residences. It backs up to an office building, and there's significant right-of-way on this side of the street that's available. Traveling down Hammond Avenue, we have also proposed some pavement marking and flex post improvements to try to tighten up the intersection. The idea being that this would be kind of quick build, easily implementable, trying to provide some traffic calming as well, because we've heard of drivers just kind of speeding around these intersections, and it can be pretty unsafe. So looking to provide some narrowing of the travel lane as best we can here on both sides. And ultimately south, as we continue south of Jackson, Hammond is two-way, so you do have to kind of consider that alignment of the vehicles as we're designing. On this side, one thing I'll get into a little bit later is we are looking at the opportunity for a pocket park or parklet here. There is, as I mentioned, more right-of-way available in this area, and perhaps there's an opportunity to really leverage some of that space for a new kind of public amenity. And so I'll get into some of those alternatives in a little bit. Continuing further down Hammond, so you can see that the two-way separated bicycle facility would continue the full length of the street, and the 5-foot sidewalk would continue the full length as well. Down at the Holton Lane intersection, we're proposing again some pavement marking and flex posts to tighten up the intersection and provide some traffic calming, help to reduce vehicle speeds. This Holton Lane is downhill in this direction in this area, providing this new high visibility crosswalk that would connect the proposed sidewalk with the existing sidewalk on Holton Lane, and connect all the way up to New Hampshire Avenue. And then this final connection for bicyclists, we're proposing shared lane markings on Holton Lane, which is a pretty calm street with on-street parking on either side, and would provide that connection to the two-way bicycle facility in the service lane here on New Hampshire Avenue. Bicyclists essentially would use this crosswalk to come out of the cycle track onto Holton Lane, and or could somewhat easily make this connection traveling eastbound on Holton Lane and connecting to southbound on New Hampshire Avenue. So that provides kind of a brief overview of the full concepts that we're considering in the study area. From there, I'd like to get into some of the design alternatives, specifically at Ann Street. So as I mentioned, there is consideration for closing off access at University Boulevard. And so this provides a number of different options for how to use the space. In this concept, we're showing how we could close off access and actually provide some more ornamental planting to really make it visible that it's closed. And then even potentially some plaza area for that could act as a stage area or as additional seating. It does seem like, at least with the farmers market, there's regularly music performances, and this is an opportunity to kind of expand and build upon that community amenity. Perhaps even outside of the farmers market, there could be events hosted. In the street itself, it could serve as a gathering or event space. There's opportunity for additional tree planting. This is showing just as a place of reference. This line here is the space from here to the fence, or it's a brick wall to the shopping center. This space, we're maintaining that same amount of space. We're not narrowing that, et cetera, just to provide a reference. On this side of the street, we do realize that there are 2 driveways. So access would be allowed for those 2 driveways, but in this section of Ann Street, but would be closed for other vehicle access. And it's worth noting that these 2 properties do have secondary points of access, either on Hammond Avenue or on University Boulevard. So that's also kind of one of the drivers or considerations for this could be feasible and possible. And that would terminate here at Hammond Avenue. There's a lot of options down here on how to do this. It could be with large planters. It could be with bollards that are removable or that can go down into the street with remote access or key access, or there's a number of different options that could be explored. Even raising the streetscape in this section so that it's level with the sidewalk would also offer more kind of event space opportunity. So those are options that can be explored further down in subsequent design phases, but just trying to give an idea of what could be possible here. The other option, which maintains access from University Boulevard, extends the curb just slightly at the corner here in alignment with the Purple Line plans. That kind of provides maybe shortening this pedestrian crossing distance. And then maybe an opportunity for additional tree plantings in the right-of-way. Again, widening the sidewalk a little bit, as much as 10 feet if in places. So just a slight narrowing of the street in this option in alignment with the Purple Line plans, but maintaining that access from University Boulevard. So kind of an apples-to-apples comparison there. Taking you all back to Hammond Avenue as we jump around here, we have, as I mentioned, we are exploring the opportunity for a pocket park or parklet at that Hammond Avenue, Jackson Avenue intersection, and we have 3 design alternatives that we're exploring here. Option 1 is kind of the least invasive of the options. It maintains the existing curb alignment. It adds that 5-foot sidewalk basically behind the existing curb, and then still provides about 10 feet between the sidewalk and the right-of-way line to have a little bit of plaza space and a little bit of green space and a little bit of bench seating. And maintains a consistent alignment of sidewalk and separated bikeway. It also results in still a fairly wide travel lane, no impacts to parking on the west side of the street. And as a result of being the least invasive option, it is the lowest cost option. Continuing on to option 2. This is the most invasive option and therefore the highest cost option. And it shows realigning the curb line enough to expand the parklet area. So this, while it is the most invasive and the highest cost, it offers the biggest park space in this corner. And so we basically extend the curb out and shift the bikeway in order to get a resulting narrower travel lane and help reduce speeds in that sense. And we get almost 18 feet between the back of the sidewalk and the right-of-way line. Oh, wait, sorry. Is that right? Yeah, almost 18 feet between the back of the sidewalk and the right-of-way line. And that can be, here it's shown as a combination of plaza space and green space, a little bit more bench seating. Again, options to be explored in subsequent design phases. This option would, in turn, impact on-street parking on the west side of the street, so it has additional parking impacts beyond what's already been shown. Finally, option 3 is kind of our middle of the road option. It has medium costs associated with it because it realigns the curb just slightly. So we still get a narrower travel lane where we most need it, but it's less invasive. Existing parking on the west side is preserved, and we get about 15 feet between the back of the sidewalk and the right-of-way line. So you can see here a little bit more expansive bench seating and plaza area, just a slight landscaping buffer between the plaza area and the right-of-way line or the wall from the office building. So, those are our proposed concepts and design alternatives. We would love to hear from you tonight or over the course of the next 10 days while the comment period is open. And you can provide your feedback either in person here tonight using sticky notes on our roll plots, kind of writing down what you see, or questions, comments, what you like, what you don't like. You can also provide your comments from home using the survey and comment map, where we're asking a series of questions on which concepts you favor, both at Ann Street and at the Pocket Park, asking for any information or feedback you'd like to convey to the project team, just general comments and feedback. If you'd like to continue to receive project updates, you can provide your email address. We also have a comment map, so if there are other features that you would like us to pay attention to, or you want to note some safety concern or traffic concern that you think is relevant to the project, there's a comment map here where you can click on new feature, and then you get this symbol here where you can add a dot, add your comments, and then click create, and that will effectively document your comment on the map so that we have a visual point of where you're trying to provide your feedback. And so you can, this is all available here on oh no. Luckily we have it here. This is the project website accessed. I guess this is the project overview on the city's website, and where all of this presentation is available. You click on New Avenue Purple Line Connection Study. And what you should see is the entire, presentation that I just walked through is available here, and you would be able to navigate to that survey and comment map tab. Maybe I will refresh. And so as you can see, again, this is through the city's website. And you can see all the content that we've just walked through tonight. As you navigate to the right here, you'll see that survey and comment map tab pop up. And there are the links here to the survey. Scrolling down, there's a link to the comment map. We would love to hear from you. And this will remain open until April 18th, so the next 10 days roughly. And we look forward to keeping you updated as the project progresses. Thank you all for coming. I'm happy to take some questions in the meantime, and then offer an opportunity to walk around and provide feedback. Yeah.
Thank you so much. A question is, what is the rough timeline of when this might be done in relation to the rough timeline of when the Purple Line station would open? Do we think this would be done before, or about the same time, or after?
That's a good question.
Yeah. So right now, this is just conceptual planning. We've not done designs as yet. So it really depends on where we go from here. Does the concept move on to design? Do we get funding for the design? And then we can establish a timeline. The Purple Line is expected to open in 2027?
Yes,
So-
early 2027.
Yeah.
As of today.
Any other comments or questions? Or do you just want to take it to the roll plot? You can speak.
I was just going to say, the city's been effective at getting grant funding for a lot of the design work. As was mentioned at the beginning, we got a grant through Council of Governments to get to the concept design. We've had some effective tools at a variety of different funding sources with the new Avenue Bike lane development, if you've been following that. So each of those design elements were funded through grants. So I would anticipate we need to foster that same kind of arrangement where we put out grant requests to continue the funding, development, the design. And then we'd need to look for fairly large pots of money for construction. I think some of what you've seen there is the low-cost options. If we're talking delineator posts and pavement marking, that's lower dollar. If we really want to start permanent, making these kind of changes permanent, then you're talking about curb and gutter and removing roadways and those kinds of things. So, you know, our crystal ball is foggy at best, but I think it's good to keep in mind that this will need significant funding outside the city's normal budget, and that we have been successful with grants, but that may change, and so that could alter the time frame as well. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Daryl Braithwaite. I'm the Public Works Director for the city.
Thank you. I live on Hammond Avenue off of Ann Street. One of my big concerns with closing, and I think it sounds good in concept, but I'm concerned that all those cars then are going to go up my street, which we already get a ton of that. I had proposed a few months ago for Ann Street to, or for Hammond Avenue to be one way heading down towards Ann Street. I know that's not really part of this study, but it kind of becomes incidental when I'm concerned about traffic going up Ann. So my other question is, when you're considering these different concepts, how do you make that determination if there's not a lot of community engagement? I mean, I have very strong feelings. I have a neighbor who I know feels strongly, but beyond that, I'm not sure that anyone else might comment.
Yeah, I think that we look at the data as well. I think in this study, we have done field observations to try to observe traffic patterns and try to anticipate how cars might redistribute if access were closed. But given it was, in this case, it was more focused on streets a little bit further to the south. But I think that would be, depending on the feedback received for this option and how viable the closing of Ann Street continues to be, I would recommend that additional, more focused data collection happen to specifically look at that section of Hammond Avenue and Merrimack Drive, because I think it is a very reasonable, conclusion that could be an impact of the decision. So it would be helpful to actually have numbers to put to it and to understand even just what's the parking occupancy on those streets, what are some of the more detailed traffic data available to understand the level of impact that could result. So.
And I would just want to add that the concern has been noted and is being considered. We have a traffic study that we're looking to start. We've done an RFP for bids. We've gotten those bids, and we're in the process of evaluating those RFPs. So more to come on the traffic study and the impacts that road changes can have on the traffic flow throughout the community.
First question, I guess, points to data. I mean, are we expecting a lot more bike usage going towards or using this corridor? I'm very pro bike, and I bike as much as I can, but I don't want to see this city spend a ton of money on some of these sections, putting in separate bike lanes where the traffic is already kind of slow and yeah, I'd hate to see the street widened and more impervious surface when we could use kind of dual use roads. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment, and I think that's why the majority, as we talked about, the existing environment is pretty comfortable and low stress for pedestrian and bicyclists. Hammond Avenue really is a different animal because of the two-way and one-way sections. So because of that one-way section, we looked at like a contraflow bike lane. We looked at a few different options, including shared lane markings, et cetera, and really decided that the combination of the sidewalk and the two-way cycle track was a reasonable, given we have that width in that northern section, was a real opportunity, I think, that the city saw.
So you'd be building out into the street rather than into the park.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your questions and your feedback. As I mentioned, there's lots of ways to stay involved, and I hope that you all will. And happy to stick around with representatives from the city and continue to answer any questions or listen. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Anjali.